Hello, everybody. Welcome back. I know what you're thinking. I thought it was going to be Jeremy. No, it's me. I'm doing game 2 tonight. Jeremy's running game 3, and I'm really excited about this one. So I want to get right into it. Let's introduce our characters first. We have Michael Verity, the King of Order, joining us tonight. Hello, Michael Verity.
Oh, you start with me today. I feel honored.
That I do. Ideal. We're gonna circle back around to Ideal. We're gonna do Ideal last. So, Michael, how are you?
I feel absolutely wonderful, and I can't wait to see what Bartholomew has come up for me from my choice later.
Yes, I understand that you and him have been working together. You have quite a few ideas on what you want for your next major production.
Yes, indeed, and I'm very excited, and hopefully it all works out in the end.
Yes, a soldier to stand by your side through all times, thick and thin. Uh, what would a knight such as yourself need, or a king, really? Uh, Michael, were you a knight at any time? Are you technically Sir Michael Verity for a while, or were you never a knight? Because I guess you were a prince.
I was a prince. I don't think I was ever a knight. I was trained. I mean, you could
Hmm.
say I was trained in the ways of being a knight, if that counts, if
That
anything.
I think that
But I
counts.
still,
You're very gallant and very knightly in the way that you act, so I associate you with knights. But I suppose you are not technically a knight,
yes, that is
perhaps
correct.
in all but name. Well, Michael Verity, I hope is the kingdom going well before we part ways.
Yeah, the
How are things?
kingdom's doing very well. The orc town is getting a lot better.
Well, I'm glad to hear that, and well, I'm glad that you've joined us once more. Welcome back, Michael.
Thank you.
Next up, we have the Dread Emperor, an individual running a much different kingdom. Hello, Nijel.
Hello, Pete.
Tell me, Nijel, how are you this evening?
I'm doing well. It seems my tour of the greats is still underway.
Any new developments on that particular front, or I imagine on several different fronts therein?
Oh, nothing too spectacular. Establishing a few points of contact to maintain an eye on the other movers and shakers of this step.
Yes, I suppose waging war is one of meticulous inches rather than big gains. So I'm glad that, and forgive me if I'm wrong in this, but I'm glad to hear that things are proceeding according to plan. Is that fair to say, Nigel?
Indeed.
Mm. And Nigel, on a more personal note, I'm just curious because I do want to check in with you every now and again. Just how are you doing? How are you just handling all the stress of managing, well, this essentially engineering this invasion of the small kingdoms?
I would be lying to say that this was an easy undertaking, but it is the path I have chosen. And I will walk this path no matter how much blood I have to trot upon.
Well, I wish you, well, perhaps I wish you only the best of luck. I wish the the foes that you're up against luck as well, as I'm sure that many of them are not happy. But Nigel, we root only for your success, regardless of what your endeavors may be. So Nigel, it is good to have you back once more. And next up, we have Sword Coheir. Sword, how have you been? I know you've recently had an encounter with a being that was very important to you in your life and growing up. The very god that was the temple of your at the temple of your hometown. Sword, how are you feeling? How are you doing?
Still kicking myself after letting my brother get away without dragging him back hogtied to Lana.
He's always been a little bit of a tricky one, hasn't he?
Unfortunately, but I'm afraid seeing the Ninja Camel Spider Moose up close and personal. By the way, don't let him touch his lips to your forehead. It's very slight. But aside from being distracted by that, he managed to slip away during
The confusion and well the divine visit. I understand. Um, your town must have been very glad to see your return, though, and that, well, their home was in many ways liberated.
I didn't really stick around to find out.
Yeah, I suppose that's always been your way, Sword, always on the move. Well, Sword, I'm glad that your travels have taken you once again around through the land of DnDTime. Welcome back, Sword.
Thank you.
And last but not least, Ideal. Ideal, you are currently in your your high-rise apartment there in Central City. What is like the interior decoration of your apartment, Ideal?
It's probably a bit messy, maps on the walls, papers on the desk.
Yes, a little bit cluttered just from, as much as you live here and, as much as you live here and stay here when you're resting, it's also your, your workspace and the place from which you manage your business at the Gilded Rose. So,
Correct.
yeah, I think it's pretty cluttered, and it's very late at night. As you're kind of lying in bed, you are there in your apartment. You have had kind of a long day. There were a couple of minor annoyances at work in the afternoon. Nothing too major. You're just kind of settling down, and you are starting to kind of drift off to sleep. And then, as you are doing so, a small radio that sits on the bedstand next to where you are, it clicks to life. A wonder of trigonometric engineering, these new radios, and of course a thing very hard to afford, but for of course the Lord of the Gilded Rose, not much of an issue. And as it kind of clicks to life without you prompting it, as I said, you were dead asleep at the time, it begins to play a fairly strange melody that you begin to hear coming out of it. And it kind of starts you from your sleep as you're laying there. And this melody begins to kind of incant, and you hear it just in the space. And then you begin to hear static as you start. Do you react to this in any way? What do you do, Ideal, as this starts to happen?
I go to the radio and try fiddling with the dial a bit.
Okay. Yeah, you go over and you begin kind of like messing with the dial a little bit. You hit the power switch on it. You try and essentially unplug it from the arcane generator that powers it, and you pull it out, and it continues to play even when taken off of power. And you fiddle with the dials a little bit. You hear it kind of like the static kind of jumps around and crashes, but this strange melody that's undercutting doesn't seem to cease. But as you are playing with the dials and hearing those statics, you hear a voice start to come in, and it speaks to you. It sounds muffled, as if, well, muffled by the frequency that it seems to be speaking to you over the radio, and that voice kind of calls out to you. Ideal? Ideal?
Hello?
Good evening, Ideal. It's very nice to hear from you tonight. How are you? I hope I didn't disturb your sleep.
No, it's always good to hear from you.
Yes. Things have been going very well for you lately, haven't they? Of this fancy new place.
Yes. What is it you wish for me to... Is there anything you wish for me to do, or...?
I do have a task for you. By the way, how are you finding those new clothes of yours? I slipped in a bit while that blue wizard that you work for was working. I made a couple of modifications of my own. I don't know if he was aware or not.
I find them quite useful, thank you.
Of course. Anything for a friend. Now, Ideal, I would appreciate it. And he kind of continues. The radio kind of statics out for a little bit, and it's always like this when you kind of communicate with him. You see, that blue wizard that you work for is going to be getting a request very soon. It's a deal going through, a treaty. And I need you to make sure that it goes through. It concerns beings of, well, immeasurable power. And I need them
working together for the time being, for my purposes, for our purposes.
All right. What is it
Bartholomew is going to round about a crew. I want you to be at the house and make sure that you're on the team. It seems that they're going to need some neutral parties to act as negotiators. I'm sure the old man will fill you in on some of the details.
All right.
And, Ideal, don't look so glum. What do I always say? You're never fully dressed without a smile, Ideal.
Very well.
And with that, the radio kind of statics and kind of jumps around a little bit more, and then just kind of cuts off completely, and you're just alone in the room, and it's kind of dark.
All right. I guess I'm going to don the master's guise.
All right. You kind of take out your new item, although it's a little bit more complicated than that. Your suit and your kind of cane that comes along with it. And what particular fashion are you going with today? What is your choice?
Formal.
Yes. You put on your formal attire. As you kind of don it, you see, the suit jacket the suit kind of comes over you, and then all of a sudden the kind of pieces of it just kind of fold in and fit into your form, very much in a much less mechanical way and more, more like the stitches and threads are being pulled, but not unlike in the way that Kurogan's golden scales kind of wrap around him. The clothing perfectly fits into your form. The cane kind of taps do you go with the top hat, or is that not your style?
Let's go with the top hat.
The top hat just kind of like pops out from the top and flops onto your head, and you are dressed for a formal occasion as you step out and make your way towards Bartholomew's shop. And the rest of you are already standing within Bartholomew's shop as kind of Ideal arrives, and you see Bartholomew's there. So I was just getting to... and Ideal walks in. Oh, Ideal, what are you doing here?
I was here to see if you had any jobs that needed to be done.
Actually, I just got something in. I was about to call in. I was asking Switch if Switch could come in and do the gig. I had just contacted her, but since you're here, I can just call her off.
Very well, then.
All right, I'll do it. She's going to be probably mad. And Bartholomew kind of steps back into the other room, and you see him kind of like, you just hear a lot of like apologetic groans in the other room, and like, I'm sorry's and things of that nature as Bartholomew walks back up. All right, in that case, so it will be the four of you. Apparently, there is a matter of incredible diplomatic difficulty that will be needed for your undertaking this evening. A number of celestials and devils of the planes, two forces that have always traditionally been at odds, of course. Their wars have raged for countless millennia. However, a recent peace treaty has been brokered between a number of their representatives. The leaders of each faction are not entirely sold on the concept. They wanted neutral third-party translators to come in and essentially mediate the meeting, as they don't trust some of their personal advisors in places, for good reason. It seems that they brokered this peace treaty very much behind the backs of their superiors. So I will need you to go and make sure that it goes through without a hitch. They don't speak each other's language, so you'll be acting as translators. And your job will be to make sure that they successfully broker this peace treaty. I have for each of you, and he kind of tosses around, some translators of sorts. You simply should put these pieces in your ears, and you should be able to speak and understand in the languages of the people that you're communicating with.
I have no need for this because I can actually understand Celestial on my own.
Do you speak Infernal as well?
Sadly,
see-
no.
I
Which
see.
would be
Well,
helpful in that case. Yes, well, actually, you're a very good fit for this job, Ideal. I didn't think of you at the time, but I'm very glad you're here. You as well, of course, Michael. Having, well, such an esteemed member, a royal birth, as with you, Nijel, here will be of great help. Nothing against you, Sword. You just don't have any specific qualifications that are 100% relevant. But
I can speak Celestial.
you speak Celestial, of course. That's why I hired you in the first place. I didn't even think of that. Well, well, it will be on you. If you're ready, I can begin sending you there right now. It's in a bit of it's a bit out of the way. I don't know if any of you have had the opportunity to be in this particular location before. Floating city of sorts.
I've never been to a floating city before, but this shall be interesting. I was
Yeah.
chosen by Celestials to wield power, and I shall now go to a land of Celestials.
Well,
Is it
there are a
that
number of
castle of
creatures.
foxes?
A number of creatures dwell in this place. It is a queendom. It's by the name of Arelinox. It's an interesting place. As I said, it floats high among the clouds. Very few know about it because of its altitude outside of the land of DnDTime.
Hmm,
I've been there
interesting.
before.
Oh, you're familiar with the location.
Yes.
Um,
It is where I was. I guess you could say it's where I was born.
really?
Before coming to the lands of DnDTime, of course.
And Bartholomew just seems kind of confused that he didn't know this. You see him kind of like looking around, kind of like thrown off. And it's very strange. How do I not? I know literally everything. Well, are you sure that was where you were born?
It's where I was before I came here, I believe.
And he thinks
If I remember correctly.
I don't know. Every time I try and think about it, I just hear this strange static. Yeah. Oh well, nothing to do with. And so, if you could, well, make sure that everything goes according to plan, and that these forces apparently, the leaders have not spoken yet, so this might be a tense encounter. And with that, Bartholomew snaps his fingers. And actually, I'm sorry, did any of you have any more questions? Yes, do you have any more questions?
Nope, no questions.
All right. He snaps his fingers, second time for emphasis, and you are all suddenly and magically whisked away as you stand now in a very, very beautiful location. It's breathtaking, really. It's late at night, but you are high enough above the clouds that you can still see the very bright full moon without any cover. As it kind of beams down on you, the stars are kind of, breathtaking up. The stars are kind of breathtaking up above you, and you stand on the outside of what appears to be a very large castle that's kind of stretching upwards. Around you, you can see more very beautiful architecture. All of it is very tall. You can see above you, there's also like ships, these very large, boats and sails that seem to just fly aloft in the air, through whatever incredible magic kind of keeps them afloat, that are all kind of, moving, and it's a bustling city. But you are on the precipice of a castle of sorts. And you're kind of standing over, looking down at this floating city from above it, at kind of one of the higher points within it. And from where you're standing, you can see this castle. There's a grand, opening and entrance foyer that leads, presumably this is the location where you were sent to, as you're out in this, courtyard that overlooks the whole of the kingdom of Relinox. And from where you are, you see, as you kind of arrive, a couple of figures walk over to you. You see a tiefling woman and an Aasimar. An Aasimar man kind of walk up to you, and they begin to speak. I believe that you are our designated third-party consultants, are you not?
That is us, yes.
Very good.
Indeed.
Very good. You see, our respective masters are... She kind of trails off in her sentence. The other one picks up. They're stubborn. We have lost countless lives on either side in a war that's been raging longer than you are likely able to comprehend. And we've finally, thanks to myself and thanks to my friend here, been able to put them together in a room peacefully. But the tensions are very high in there, and I imagine even just one wrong word could completely throw off the entire engagement. So we need you to be very delicate in the way that you handle this particular encounter. Do you think you can do that?
I think I can handle that, yes.
As a person entrusted to power by your superiors, I think I can handle it.
And the kind of tiefling woman leans in a little bit conspiratorially and says, "They're old rivals, so be careful. You might not want to... You're ready to act as translators, I've been informed. You might not want to translate directly everything that they're saying. Maybe put a little bit of a spin on it. The gist, paraphrase. You understand?
Keep things civil.
Keep things
I
as
would
civil as possible.
Civil. Got it.
And watch the crowds as well. We were told that you're fairly handy in a fight as well, should one break out. I wouldn't be surprised to see something like that. All right, well, in that case, come with me. And they begin to step off across the great stonework of this courtyard and into one of the larger castles. Not into like the main throne room or anything like that, but off into a side there appears to be a very large banquet hall that has been set aside here in this neutral ground for presumably the purposes of this important meeting. And as you kind of walk down the side hallway and off into this space, you move into as I said, this banquet hall. There's an extremely long table, and the array of creatures that you see within this space is staggering. You can see on one side what looks like a cavalcade of creatures from the very deepest depths of hell. You can see what look like these terrible devils that are like wrapped and covered in chains. You can see one that kind of leans up and out that is entirely made of that's entirely made of bone and these terrible kind of like blood stains on these bony wings that sprout out from its back. You can see on the opposite side are splendorous angels, strange lizard creatures with wings that kind of like filter and kind of flit around, kind of moving very quickly and like quicksilver almost as they move agilely throughout the room. There's a unicorn in the space, as well as, well, a number of other fairly terrifying looking devils and even terrifying celestials, just kind of in their glory, that are standing there. And on either side of the table, you can see what appear to be one... you can see sitting there what looks like a half devil, half human. They're kind of have like red wings. They're being very much attended to by many of the other devils there. They're kind of speaking in terms that is kind of like leaning over and looking across the table at what looks like a very spectacular looking angel that is kind of staring them down in the space. And the room is a ball of tension as you all walk in. And the kind of Aasimar man that you're speaking to before speaks up to you and goes, "Very well. I will leave this to all of you. These are our leaders. We will return to our camps. You will be, well, brokering this peace treaty. We have the treaty there on the table now, but I trust that you will know how to mediate this encounter. The fate of quite a bit is in your hands." And they both nod and kind of walk back to their respective sides, and the two leaders of these parties look at you guys expectantly. What do you guys do?
Well, let us start with the most important thing. We can't exactly broker this if we don't know what lies within the treaty. I will pick it up to read it.
All right. As you kind of go over to the table, you can see on the other side of the table, there's an item that you are vaguely familiar with, and that is the little brass man, a creature known for its ability to, well, write very good legal contracts and documents and things of that nature. And as you are kind of like looking through and reading it, you can see that on the other side of the table, there's what looks like just 3 or 4 little brass men that are all just kind of like tap dancing and waiting, that are there presumably hired for this particular occasion, to make any edits or anything that it might be necessary to the treaty. Go ahead and make me... Yeah, they're tap dancing. That's what they do. Go ahead and make me an investigation check, Nijel. If you have another skill that you think would apply, I'll let you do it, but you rolled a 2 anyway. Or, I'm sorry, you rolled a 4. Yeah, you're reading over the contract, rough hewn points. I'm not going to redo the... it's very long, basically. But you're perusing it, and it calls for a ceasefire. There is a time limit on it. It basically calls for a ceasefire for the next 1,000 years. And in that time, there are going to be reevaluation periods, and they're going to like discuss how things are going and make sure that both parties are upholding their sides of the contract. There are a number of references to like places in the Nine Hells and places in like Mount Olympus that are going to be like off limits for either party to like engage in, restrictions on how members of the Celestials and members of the Infernal Realms are able to enter into each other's planes, and like through what gateways they would go through. Nothing strikes you off about it on the first glance through. It seems pretty fair.
I will pass it off to whichever of our party is closest. Well, it seems rather straightforward.
Ideal's gonna take a look at that treaty and peruse through it.
All right, you can also go ahead and make me an investigation if you would like. 19. All right, you're looking over it, and you get a lot of the same information that I just described to Nijel, but you're starting to notice some. Discrepancies in it. There are places in there where there are kind of obvious loopholes. One that's mentioned is specifically the gates of entry into the celestial realms. It kind of completely ignores. There's a whole kind of treatise on the river Styx and the ability for the angels to not basically use, like a lack of permission to use and do anything on the river Styx. But it doesn't make any kind of treatise for the fact that the river Styx kind of, extends outwards and beyond, and it's basically a one-way street where they're able to kind of like exit the river Styx and kind of make voyages to other planes from there, but only allows one way, and it doesn't allow them to enter, which is kind of a tricky thing in there that could definitely be taken advantage of in the long run. There's also a very strict caveat on the time for the kind of like the angels. There's mention of angelic abilities to kind of like stop and kind of control the flow of time. So you get the impression that some of these are limited, but in places you think that they might be able to just stop time to and kind of like extend the counting of it, such that it might drag on the contract for eternity, should the angelic parties choose to do so in the current form of the contract. Unfair on both sides, you would say.
Yes.
That's in like the reading that you do right now. So there's definitely failings on both sides here. But as you guys are kind of taking your time and reading over the contract, the woman that's sitting over there, this devilish figure, looks over and goes, "Are we going to get to things sometime soon?"
Oh, we will. I just have to make sure everything is...
Every moment that I spend in this room breathing in the air of these creatures, you're trying my patience.
I know, but it is necessary if you want this treaty to go forward.
And all of this is spoken to you in Infernal. All of you kind of understand and hear it. But on the other side, as they're speaking, the kind of Deva is looking over, this other angelic being is looking over the group of you, kind of questioningly, wondering what was said on the other side of the table.
She simply desires our haste in this matter.
The angel kind of thinks for a time. That is understood. The creatures of the infernal realm have very little concept of patience. But we will wait. And she kind of, or he kind of looks over at you and is kind of seemingly expecting you to translate that insult back.
Oh no.
We will do our best to get to business. Our representative here, I'll motion to Ideal since he seems to have a better grasp of the contract, simply has to verify a few things.
There is a couple of issues here. For one, I noticed that if I'm understanding this correctly, the treaty, there's a loophole in the treaty that would essentially allow the angels to extend it ad infinitum if they so wish, using their time manipulation abilities.
Are you addressing this to the party in like common, or like how are you speaking this? Are you speaking this to who? Because you have like they basically the creatures here seem to speak their respective languages. Like the one speaks celestial, the one devil speaks infernal. So you have to like specify who you want to communicate this to.
I'm going to communicate this to the an infernal, to the
infernals. All right.
Yeah.
Very well.
Yes, to the lower beings, I guess. If you want to use the cosmology.
Yes. We'll say we'll do infernals and celestials will be the referred moving forward.
Yeah.
So the leader of the celestial, the infernals, as you kind of communicate this, their eyes sort of like glow a little bit, and you see like a flash of flame and anger as they kind of look across the way over at the Deva, and they say out loud. Looks to one of the chain devils to their left. Would you care to remind our esteemed friend here of my titles? And the esteemed the person that they speak to, it's one of those chain devils, kind of looks up, and they just speak with absolute confidence. You speak now to the Butcher of Gulnath, Slayer of Altera Lightbringer, Destroyer of the Celestial Legions, Devourer of Truth. And he kind of sits back down for a moment, and says, the Butcher of Gulnath kind of looks over at you, and she says, if you would be so kind, and points at the Deva across the way.
I suddenly start to question in my head why this person's even making a treaty in the first place with those damn titles.
The infernal representative.
They definitely don't seem to. Oh, sorry. Go ahead.
I turn to Max and say that they are making this treaty because they don't want to fight a war on two fronts. If you are aware, devils and demons don't get along either. Though they are both evil, one is lawful, the other is chaotic. They don't get along. Therefore, they don't want to waste time fighting the Celestials if they can.
Then I guess I can try to speak for the Celestials then, in order to try to make things civil.
What do you say to them then, as he kind of unleashes this torrent of titles that seem to be intentionally chosen to antagonize the Celestials? What do you say, Max?
I'm just gonna look at the devilish leader and say, I care not for your titles or what you do, for it does not matter in the purposes of this treaty. I may be one to be able to speak to those who you hate the most, but I still agree that this treaty should continue. And besides, if you put it into perspective, you're a treaty that lasts for 1,000 years should take delicate time, especially when you're entrusting us, people who probably will not live that long, to see it.
Michael?
Go ahead and make a persuasion check, Michael. But Ideal, finish your thought.
Michael, you might want to choose your words more carefully.
21. He looks over at you. I'm sorry, she looks over at you. Human, how could you possibly understand the depths of our hatred for these creatures? How many of my brethren have they slain? Simply, we wish to protect the lower realms from these... For them! We do it for them! And still they wage war upon us. Still they look down upon us. You could never know. But I admire your fire. Not many humans would stand to speak so brashly, to cast aside my titles in a room full of my kin. So for that, you have a modicum of my respect. However, for now, please simply tell our friend across the table who he's dealing with. Very well?
Agreed. I guess so. So, I'm just gonna look into Ideal. What should I say? Whisper. What should I tell them? Celestial?
Let me just tell them that they're upset about the loophole that would allow them to extend the treaty forever using their magic.
Do
Well,
also
I will.
mention
I will.
the part about them locking down the river Styx. That should be quite useful information for them.
Okay, so I will do what you both suggested, and I'm going to basically explain to the Celestial leader in Celestial, of course, that that not only do the demons and devils disagree with some of the loopholes and locking the river Styx, but that they also wish to protect each other. They wish to protect the place from the constant warfare that they blame the Celestials for.
All right, and you kind of communicate this to the leader of the Celestials here, who is looking over you very intently as you were kind of giving this speech. As you kind of mentioned the part about the river Styx that Nijel mentioned to you, their face kind of darkens a little bit, and they speak. An oversight on our part. We should have known that those fiendish creatures would try and manipulate the contract to their advantage. A terrible crime indeed. However, your words are understood. And they're looking at you very intently, and Michael, their eyes seem to just like pierce through, and with their kind of like angelic insight, they look at you. There's something you're holding back, however. What did they say? As they have an ability to detect lies. You step in.
Oh, they just mentioned their titles.
Such like the Butcher of Gulnath, and they look over kind of in a moment of recognition, kind of acknowledging who they are. To mention, did they say anything about what they did to the Lightbringer? And they kind of look across the table, and you see them just mutter a word in Celestial that presumably is like the Celestial name Lightbringer. You're kind of translating it, and as the Deva kind of like does this across the table, the person on the other side kind of grins and like nods back, and the Deva says, "Yes, of course, bringing up the slaughter of my grandfather. Yes. I don't know if this peace treaty is such a good idea. And as they kind of mention the thing about the slaughter of the grandfather, you watch as a lot of the creatures on the other side start kind of like posing up and getting into almost like combat positions. And on the opposite side, you can see some of the devils, as soon as the angels kind of reacted that way, a lot of them are starting to like brandish weapons. Like one of those chain devils like takes the chains out, like there's going to be a barroom brawl in here.
Immediately what I'm going to do is I'm going to try to I'm going to use my own sword and get up on the table, and I'm going to stab it, and I'm going to stab it into the table, and just yell out, "Enough!"
Absolutely. You kind of take out the sword and you slam it down. What is everyone else doing? Does anyone want to like assist Michael Verity in his endeavor here? As I assume that all of you are kind of reacting very quickly to this sudden escalation of tension in the room.
As it suddenly gets quiet, I assume, with this outburst of Michael's, I would like to, and Celestial, since they seem to react. Sit, you fools. This is a room of peace, is it not? Do you really want to sink lower than the demons to strike them first?
Sword, what have you been doing while this is going on?
Mostly assessing the situation.
Still kind of taking things in, waiting for a moment? Do you react at all to this, or are you still kind of like holding back, kind of waiting for the right moment?
I will say something to Infernal, to the demons. It's like
right.
we both know you hate each other. However, the goal of the treaty is just the same. You all share that in common. If you wish for this treaty to ensue, please have your seats.
Ideal's going to repeat what Sword just said to the demons, to the Infernal's name.
Okay, yeah. You speak Sword's words back to the Celestials.
Yes,
It's good advice for both parties in this particular case. I would like Sword, because I think Ideal's directly assisting you. I would like you to make me a persuasion check with advantage, and I think because Nijel's helping out you, Michael, I would like you also to make me a persuasion check with advantage. But so both of you make me persuasion checks with advantage. All right, Sword, your words kind of they kind of fall in their hearing, and it's what they want to hear, but they also look like they're just itching to kind of come into conflict. Like there's like bows drawn on the angelic side where they're like ready. Like you can see even just like an accidental slip of a finger might trigger this into, well, a war between good and evil breaking out right here in this castle. But as Michael Verity hop up onto the table, Nijel kind of speaks out in Celestial, calm down. Michael, you slam the sword down, and the respective leaders kind of like snap into focus. They look at you, and you tell them, enough! And both of them kind of like tentatively sit back down very slowly. And as the leaders on either side sit down, so do the rest of the tension in the room kind of drops as things come down to, again, a relative state of peace in the room. And things are, things kind of continue, and you begin working your way through, you begin sort of working your way through and going through the points. And I imagine you're helping them like adjust the things on the treaty that were kind of like unfair. Safe to say?
Yes. Angels, will you agree to let go of the loophole that will allow you to extend the treaty using your time magic if the demons open up the river Styx?
He kind of looks at you for a time. We will, obviously, with that contingency, we will agree to this deal with caveats. We're not going to, and he kind of goes into a tirade about how they're not going to stop using their abilities, but they will basically not use them to influence the contract in this way, is kind of what he goes into. And there's a lot of like details and caveats and intense, like there's a lot of intense writing essentially that has to be done. And those three little brass men are working in tandem at incredible speed to try and like keep up and be rewriting this contract as you guys are like governing what wants to be put in it. And then do you speak the same over to the Butcher of Gulnoth on the other side?
Yes.
All right. So the Butcher also kind of very tentatively. Fine. The river Styx can remain open on one side, at least. However, we will remain the doors closed into everything, save for Despater. Despater's realm, of course. Dis will have to remain open. It is a confluence. And they, again, go into a lot of like details about the lore of the Nine Hells and Celestial Planes. And you guys are communicating that pretty well. And as this is happening, that things are starting to proceed in a relatively more positive direction, as it looks like you're getting closer to like having this in an amenable state, and then eventually approaching the signing. The music that's been kind of playing in the space all of a sudden kind of cuts out, and you hear static kind of come over the radio, and the song sort of all of a sudden switches to just a different one in a strange kind of moment, and you realize the music that's been kind of being pumped in, you see in the corners of the room, for those of you unfamiliar with radios, there are these kind of speakers in the corners of the room through which music is being played here in this castle. And then a different tune kind of begins to play, a strange kind of jaunty, slightly devilish one. You watch as a lot of the celestials in the space are kind of like smelling the air, a little bit nervous and confused. And then a radio commentator's voice seems to come over, speaking about relatively, inane things, but it's just very strange that it would be radio and not just music being pumped into the space. As it kind of comes to the end of the song, the voice kind of speaks over.
Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. That song that you just heard was the Netherworld Shanty. Coming up, we'll have Miri's Magic Dance. But before we get into that, I thought a moment about the weather. We do seem to have some inclement weather coming in from the north region soon. So make sure you take a look outside and look out for what might be some snowfall soon. Be careful, everyone, and make sure you bundle up. Again, inclement weather coming in from the north. And we'll be right back at you with some more great tunes and solid oldies. Have a good night, everyone!
And
Awkward.
that music
I
kind of
divine
continues.
sense that.
Your divine sense absolutely explodes as you are in a room completely full of divine beings in every conceivable way. You get a headache as you divine sense, Nijel.
Thinking I was clever about the speakers there, I kind of just take a knee next to the table, hope that everyone else is too preoccupied with the speakers to know.
Yeah, it's a lot. It's a lot to take in as you divine sense, and a lot of the devils and like angels are now looking around, very confused at this like interruption into their conversations and negotiations. Like why are we playing this weird radio station? What is going on in this castle? Who is running this event? And some of them are kind of like frustrated. Like the angels in particular, like are kind of like very thrown off by the presence that just appeared.
It appears a third party is interested in your treaty.
Do you tell that to everyone first, or do you kind of like explain, like, what do you tell? I'm curious what you tell your party first as you hear this voice that's obviously very familiar to you.
I'm gonna hold on, let me check something real quick, because make sure that what I'm about to do isn't stupid. Because there is something that I might do if I can do it, and it won't screw me up.
I mean, I would have tried. I mean, I was gonna try to defuse the
Okay,
situation.
I
let
can't use
Ideal
that
do it
spell
first.
to talk to my party in secret, because everybody will understand me. Yeah, I'm gonna use Carmen to basically explain to my party who that was, and
All right, yeah. Well, what do you tell them? Because I am curious, like, what you tell them about that. So,
in case you're wondering who the voice on the radio is, he's the one who, I guess you could say he's my master. or the one who I made a deal with for my warlock power, more or less.
And why is he? And why is this matter of importance to your master if he's just playing random radio?
He communicates through the radio.
I see, but I find it odd that he's giving us useless information.
That
What
is,
was he?
it's a show of. First of all, it's more or less a show of power. To let both parties know that he's knows about the deal.
And Ideal, what's your passive perception? I'm curious. And actually, everyone at this point, now that
My passive perception is
14.
15.
11.
so Sword actually is the only one that notices. As you're having this conversation, Sword, you kind of heard that message and you think, yeah, inclement weather coming in from the north. And you're just kind of looking around. And on the north side of the room, there's a really huge window that kind of like lets in, it's kind of letting in moonlight. There's also just nice torchlight. Not a lot of people are paying attention to it at the moment. But you see what looks like a figure, maybe just like a foot, kind of pass over around the top of the window on the outside of the building. Something moving around in the night, like outside of this chamber.
God, I speak to the party as guys, what's that? Or who's that?
You look over, and by the time that Sword has kind of pointed it out, there, whatever that figure was that you saw, Sword has already like moved up past. You're not sure what it was.
It's known as a window.
Nijel says, "Sword, what do you respond with?"
I saw something climbing over the window. Do you think it's related to that storm the voice on the radio was talking about?
I think so.
Well, why don't you Well, maybe one of you should investigate. Let me diffuse the confusion that both parties seem to be facing.
All right, yeah, and both parties are still kind of thrown off a little bit by what was happening. What do you go up and say, Michael?
I'm gonna go up and tell them just in a language they both can understand. Like, there's no need to worry about that. It's just no need to worry about minor distractions. It's just, a radio. Just normal stuff.
I mean, that's a pretty reasonable. Honestly, like, it wasn't anything elaborate. If you'd gone more elaborate, I feel like they would have been more skeptical. But I'm gonna give you advantage because just being like, it's just the radio, guys. Chill out. Like,
Persuasion.
Yeah, go ahead and make a persuasion check. I'm even going to give you advantage on this one because I really like that strategy. 19. People are kind of like, a lot of the Celestials are still a little bit confused. Oh, it looks like the stream froze. I don't know, maybe that's just for me. Let me make sure the stream's not frozen. Everything's fine. Yeah, a lot of the Celestials kind of look over like, I don't know, I swear there was something off. And all the, the devils are like, yeah, it's just the radio. Who cares? And then they kind of all go back and start going back to about their business again. Yeah, that's that. You kind of diffuse it with that kind of very inane comment, Michael Verity, but very expertly done in that particular scenario. And meanwhile, while you're kind of lowering tension in the room, Ideal, Sword, Nijel, what are you guys doing?
I'll go have a look at this window and see if there's any sign of anything having skidded it across.
All right. Yeah, you go over to it. You want to like open it, lean out?
You do know that trying to leave the room probably might set them off, that there's something wrong.
Well, they're currently pretty distracted because this is happening while Michael's kind of talking to them and like settling them down a little bit. So, yeah, at the moment, Nijel, you do have a relative window of distraction. Not meant to be a window joke. Do you go over the window?
I will. I'll kind of hold a copy of the manifesto contract with me to have a brilliant plan to play this off if anyone knows.
All right. You walk over and you kind of look out. You lean your head out the window a little bit. You don't have dark vision. Actually, no. It's there's dim light outside because of the moon. So make me a perception check.
Sight.
Oh, you have blind sight. Jeez, what's the range on that?
30 feet.
30 feet. That's enough, actually. As you're kind of climbing over, you see very spindly legs, almost like a spider, kind of just cresting over and on top of the building. But a very humanoid-looking spider, almost like maybe a were-spider of some kind. With your blind sight, you can see that pretty clearly. And they're kind of creeping up over on top of the building.
I will close the window and kind of fan myself with the plate burrs as I... Ideal. Your master wouldn't happen to be some unholy spider abomination, would it?
No.
It does not. Yeah, it does not sound right. You say an ideal. Definitely not.
I don't believe so. No. I mean,
are you aware of anything that could be described as such that might have an interest in this, like your master?
Well, not off the top of my head, but
Ideal, go ahead and make a history check.
But let me think here for a moment.
Hey.
But let me think here for a moment, you say. Ideal, you are
You know what it is.
You are very somehow against all odds. You are familiar with a group of very specialized assassins that are part spider and that live and work and only take very big jobs in a lot of cases. And they are known, as you kind of think about it, there is an association with them and the cold in a lot of ways. Maybe that was part of the message.
There are humanoid spider assassins that are affiliated with the cult, however. They only take on big jobs when it comes to assassination.
What bigger
and
job
this would
than
definitely
taking
qualify
that
as
whole room?
And everybody in this room would technically qualify as a big job.
Yeah, any individual here would be a pretty high priority target.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure the inclement weather is their preference for, cold, for the cold in terms of abilities.
So yeah, how do you guys react?
Well, I'm probably busy with the...
Yeah, you are just kind of, I think, as this happens and you kind of reach the end of that conclusion, Nijel, you kind of come back over and describe it, and that's just finishing up, so things are kind of starting to proceed again, but you're now aware of this assassin in the midst, somewhere in the building now, it looks like, from your view, Nijel.
Do they work alone, or do they have teams?
From your, I think with your natural 20, they generally work alone. You even heard rumors that there might have been one of them that had taken up with Bartholomew's adventurers, but those could be insubstantiated. You're not sure if that's actually true.
They tend to work alone, but...
and in a lot of ways, I would say you would know the answer to these questions better than me.
Yeah. They tend to work alone, but it's not unheard of for them to work in teams when necessary, but they prefer to work alone though.
I believe that a small army of Celestials and a small army of devils would quantify more than one assassin if they do intend to survive to enjoy the rewards.
Well, what if the goal is not to survive? It's to spark an internal war that's even greater than what they've already had in the past.
So what, do you imagine one of these will disguise themselves as part of the faction to make violence against another?
They wouldn't need to. All they'd have to do is just make an assassination attempt.
Technically, all they'd have to do is kill everyone in the room. And
Would I be informed of this?
Yeah, at this point, I think you've grouped back over, and you guys are having like a hushed whisper, while they're kind of conversing among their own groups right now, anyway, because there's some stuff going on. So you guys have a moment. So you're in the group as well now, Max.
I'm going to ask: should the parties be warned? Is the question.
No, that
Max,
is an assassin.
Michael, let me answer your question with one of my own. Who hired the assassin?
Well, to be fair, I mean, we don't know.
Exactly. Which means one group hired an assassin, or an outside party did. And then, which means it may be best to take care of the assassin before either group becomes aware, in case a third party hired the assassin.
Whether it's them or a third party, negotiations will crumble if they know there's an assassin loose.
Well, one of us needs to stay behind and make sure the proceedings go as planned. They'll find it odd if none of us are around.
And kind of as you're saying that, you can see they're starting to get a little bit of impatient as you guys are having this aside. And the butcher kind of calls over. Are we almost ready to continue? My pen finger's getting a little bit itchy. I want to get this thing through with.
I'll stay behind and help and finish the proceedings while the three of you deal with the assassin.
Very well. In that case, the three of you, are you guys going to go off and kind of like look for the assassin upstairs?
Yes.
All right.
Sounds like a plan.
All right. So Sword, Nijel, and Michael, you guys all begin stepping off. You move out of the room, and go ahead and make me investigation checks or perception checks, either one you want to make, as you're just looking around trying to find this creature.
That's a 15. I forgot to take advantage off. My bad.
And we're gonna roll this one to GM. Do a GM roll on purpose this time. See how they do. All right. Okay, as you're looking around the space, you're kind of walking amongst the halls. There's like royalty here. I mean, this appears to be like the official castle of the region, a very important point, and there are people going out businesses. So there are places where like guards will kind of push you away and be like, no, you can't move into here. But you're moving, basically you move through a lot of the main areas and up into some of the more, darker recesses in the upper floors of the palace that you're in the castle. And within it, the person who spots it is actually Sword and Michael. You're in a room right now that seems to be, you think it's pretty close to like above, you think it's pretty close to above the space that the meeting is happening in down below. And you walk out and you can see that there's like a very kind of veiled balcony. There were like curtains around it up at the top, but there's this is a banquet hall, and it looks like normally they'll have like people that look out and can like set up tables here on like an upper floor, while down below the banquet hall itself has like people dancing and stuff like you imagine is the reason for the design of the room. But you're up here in that space, and you hear kind of a shifting of movement coming from a point that you can't see. Like behind, essentially behind a curtain, is there a lot of curtains that seem to subdivide this space as well. But you kind of hear this sound, and Sword and Michael, you're aware of it. Nijel, you're looking around, you're having a hard time. You're also just kind of very loudly clanking with all your armor and stuff.
To be on the safe side, after I've already seen it from down below, I just pop that so I don't get a nasty ambush.
All right. You pop that protection from poison, and let me see. It's poison if more than one poison inflicts the duration. You have advantage on saving throws against being poison, and it has resist poison damage. All right. So you pop that protection from poison onto yourself, and you're moving around the space. And meanwhile, down below, Ideal, the Deva kind of looks over to you. Where did the rest of the brokers go? We were hoping to have this finished now.
They had to go deal with an issue that unfortunately arose, But
he kind of looks at you in the same way that he kind of did that to Michael before. He kind of seems to look past and see the intended concealment there. And he says, "What is it that you aren't saying? What is going on?"
Well, I didn't want to say it, but apparently the man on the radio was warning, and I'm saying this in Celestial specifically, so the demons don't hear. But apparently he was warning us about an assassin.
And the Deva kind of. The Deva kind of looks surprised and speaks out. What assassin could defeat us? I imagine such a creature could not exist.
Well, I'm not sure myself, but even if anything happened to anybody here, I'm pretty sure that it would cause all-out war, even if neither party were at fault.
Go ahead and make a persuasion check, because I think you've given him a very sound line of logic here. He looks back at you. Yes, I could see where that would trouble them. Although I would not be surprised if they have a hand in this strange happening. Very well. And he kind of thinks for some time.
Keep it quiet for the time being, until we can learn more.
We will leave it upon you to keep the peace. Let's get this contract over and done with. And they look over. And meanwhile, the devils are there, kind of waiting for you to give the explanation as well.
All right.
What do you tell the devils?
Apparently there is an assassin.
You tell them straight up. All right.
Yes. Though I'm sure that your kind would never stoop so low as to hiring an assassin. After all, I'm pretty sure you would prefer to kill them yourselves, but
I would rip the throat from that creature where it stands.
However,
she kind of says,
we can't let the Celestials know that we know about there.
And as you say that no one would hire assassin, you notice like 3 of the devils kind of like putting away poison daggers like into their respective pouches and pockets.
However, we can't let the Celestials know that we know about their extra guests. So I had my compatriots go out and deal with it discreetly.
The devil kind of responds, make a deception check. To see if you're able to play these fools.
Oh no, this is not gonna
12. She's kind of like, she's hearing you, but she doesn't seem sold on the idea. And she's definitely like in a position now where she's gotten more suspicious. She's going through, but like she says, very well. Make sure it's taken care of. But you can tell that like she's like very on her guard, and she kind of reaches behind her back and just gives a subtle signal that seems to trigger, I don't know what you don't know what she was signaling, but there must have been someone in the retinue that was looking for it. And meanwhile, up above, I would like you guys to roll for initiative.
Oh no. Are we going to be ambushed?
One person is.
Gee, who's that unlucky?
I don't
Jeez,
know.
who's that unlucky guy?
I don't know who that's gonna be. So you you guys are kind of creeping up above. Sword and Michael, both of you are kind of aware, and you kind of hear the sound that triggers behind the curtains. Ideal, I don't know if you roll initiative, but also roll initiative because you're kind of in the zone as well.
Okay, so I have to roll twice.
Wait, roll twice?
Yeah, because my ring of
Oh yes, of course.
ring of nimble, whatever.
That is certainly true. So yes, as all of a sudden, out from behind one of these curtains, Nijel, with a ready to action, this assassin lashes out and is going to take an advantage swing at you, which might still not get you because you have the craziest armor class of anyone. It's a 19.
Nijel?
I hit the wrong touch button. That exactly hits.
Oof. They're going to use also their sneak attack. And they're an assassin, so that crits. And I need you to make me a Constitution saving throw. 15 is going to just barely succeed. You're going to take half of that cold damage, and then 5 points of... and you had advantage on it anyway, because it's still a poison, even though it's a poison that deals cold damage. And then you're going to take an additional 5. So you take a grand total of 45, 52, and then half of that 28. That's another 14. You take 66 points of damage as they attempt to assassinate you.
I don't suppose I have resistance to the poison part on top of it.
You have
What's
advantage on the save, but it's cold damage and not poison damage. It just specifically gives resistance to poison damage, right?
I am unconscious.
Oh man, in one fell swoop, this assassin kind of jumps out from behind the curtains, and the dagger kind of catches you in Nijel. You feel
Wait,
yourself...
Would I be able to notice him since I do have the blind sight?
They came out from behind cover. It wasn't it wasn't like a light or darkness thing. It was the assassin kind of stabs into you. Their kit is now essentially spent, but they got you in that first one. And Nijel, you are unconscious. That's now into initiative proper. You see this creature now kind of spread out. You can see their dagger is dripping with this brilliant blue poison that kind of like drips down onto the floor. They have like a crossbow at their back, and they are part spider, part humanoid. A very like terrifying visage now standing over. Immediately after it, they kind of like step backwards again behind the curtain. As that's going to move the first in initiative, which is you, Michael Verity. You were before this creature.
Wait, so it moved, attacked, and went back? Oh, come on.
It just reached out from behind the curtain and did one very sharp stab, essentially. With its ready action. What do you want to do, Michael?
Is there any... Well, would I have seen this happen?
You saw it happen, yeah. You kind of saw it happening like right as it was too late, but Nijel did not notice the creature kind of coming at you because he didn't roll a good perception. So it got to get the full jump.
I want to try to move within the same cover it is in to try to flush it out. I don't know if that's possible, but...
You can just step behind the cover and go after it. You saw where it kind of like ducked in. You can chase.
Yeah, I'm going to give chase.
Yeah, you run after, and you can see them kind of like stepping backwards, and they're just right on the other side of the curtain. They only had time for that one quick strike because it was a ready to action. So they're right there. Go ahead and, well, you're up next to them. What do you want to do?
Foul. I'm just going to look at him and say quietly, foul assassin, and I just take out my sword and let me just do this. Make sure I do this right. Does that hit? And are they chaotic?
24 is gonna hit. Are they chaotic, Ideal? You know better. Yeah, he knows better than I. These are his assassins that. Ideal.
Oh, we need you.
Is Frostbite representative, and are they a chaotic as a group?
I would say they're more lawful.
Okay, lawful. In that case, no, they are not chaotic in this particular case.
No
Also,
extra radiant damage. However, I'm going to make a D8 as extra damage, and make me I forget the DC again to not go to be prone. Because I'm using trip attack.
Oh, okay. They're gonna. So if they're gonna have to make a strength save, is that what it is?
Yep.
That is not their strong suit. A 15, is that enough?
I'm trying to think. It's 8 plus proficiency bonus. 8 for the 12. That is. No, I don't think that does it.
So DC 16 on that?
I would assume so.
Yeah, all right. In that case, the spider Therian kind of like falls over on its like many appendage legs. They kind of like slip out from underneath, and they kind of fall down on the ground beneath you. You have more attacks still.
Oh yes, I do, and I get to attack with advantage.
Yeah, you have advantage now because they're tripped. Also, they take the extra trip attack damage. 28's also gonna hit for sure. Another 12 points of slashing damage.
I'm gonna action surge. So
oh no!
So 2 more times with advantage.
Um. 10. Oh my god, it's not in great shape. It takes a lot of damage. I'd say it's already bloodied, one might say. As you absolutely lay into this assassin for another 21 points of damage. You unleash a terrible torrent of blows, knocking him to the ground and then cutting away. An impressive round from Michael Verity. Anything else on your turn?
No, not really.
All right, in that case, Sword, the turn now belongs to you. You have an ally that is dying to your left. Michael Verity has dived through the curtain, and the curtain kind of was ripped away, and you can see him beating up this spider pretty well. What do you want to do?
I'll use Healing Word. Use my bonus action to use Healing Word on
That is correct, sir.
And then plus 5.
All right, Nijel, you gain 12 points of health back as you... Or are you not doing it at the higher level cast? I know that gets messed up for you sometimes.
That's a level 3.
Okay,
plus,
cool.
Yeah, it was a level 3 cast plus the 2 for...
Yep, gotcha.
Yeah, Divine Discipline.
So is it 9 total that it is? Either way, Nijel, you heal for... No, I think I said it was 12, and I think that was right. So, Nijel, you heal for 12 points as you are revitalized. The poison's still kind of pumping. You can feel it kind of coursing through you, but you are once more conscious. Is that... that's just your bonus action. What do you want to do with your action sword? You have move, too.
What do you think I'm going to do?
I don't know. That's why I'm asking. A lot of things. Oh, yeah, there it is. Oh, 23 is going to hit. Oh no! You could have ended it in one swing, but the square hammer comes down.
I still have Flaming Gloves and Divine Strike, so
that's
at
still
least
a lot of damage, all things considered. The square hammer comes down, and it lets out not as terrifying of like just a deep guttural as it usually does when you swing it, and yeah, with that, the creature takes 7 points of damage, but it's still up, and it moves on to that creature's turn. They're going to use half their movement to stand. As a bonus action, they're going to disengage from you, Michael Verity. Actually, you know what? No, they're going to keep their bonus action because they need a little bit of extra movement. They're going to provoke an opportunity attack. Yeah, no, they're going to disengage because it's Sword and Michael Verity. So they're going to disengage and hop over to the side, and they kind of duck back through another one of these curtains that are forming an almost maze here in this upper balcony. And they kind of duck through and you don't see. but they are going to make an attack roll with their light crossbow.
Against who?
And from the balcony, where you are currently, Ideal, you watch as a crossbow bolt flits over and kind of begins flying towards the neck of the Butcher of Gulnoth. You watch as one of the kind of devils that are nearby just kind of steps in and just takes the hit for them. It sticks into the chain devil, which takes a kind of a sizable chunk of damage as they essentially catch a bullet for their leader here. But you watch as Gulnoth's eyes kind of gleam over with rage, and she just kind of calls out, "I never would have thought that you would have had the gumption to take me out like this. Very well, if that's how it'll be." And he kind of looks at you, she kind of looks at you, Ideal, and goes, "I knew something was off." And you watch as the devils are now kind of like all of a sudden escalating and starting to like take out their weapons and such. Meanwhile, the angels in turn are responding in kind by getting their own actions ready, as it looks like both of them are about to come into a full-scale battle, if nothing happens very quickly. That's going to then, in that case, bring us around to Nijel. What was your initiative again? I've lost track of it in the.
I am right after I.
Okay, so Ideal, it's now your turn. You see things kind of ramping up and going kind of wild. What do you do?
Well, wait, everybody understand me?
I can hear you a little bit. You're a little bit muted and kind of, there's something funky going on with your mic. I don't know if you changed mics, but that's kind of what it sounds like. You sound like the radio demon.
Sorry, give me
Well,
He has become one with his patron.
And while you are fixing that, we'll just go on to Nigel's turn. What do you want to do?
All right. right.
Okay, no, you're much back. You're all better.
Yeah.
Great.
Yeah. First, I'm going to cast tongues, so that way both sides can understand me
Oh, excellent.
when I talk.
Oh yeah, are you doing that through your fancy new suit?
Yes.
All right, I love it.
I say, all right, calm down. I mean, let's think about this logically for a second here. Why would the angels hire an assassin to take you out?
They are currently like all on way too much edge. In that kind of like, they're not looking for condolences. It looks like they might need some kind of show, more than just words at this point. They're about to like enter fray. But they're like, I mean, they hear you. And for starters, do go ahead and make me a persuasion check to try and begin de-escalating this. It'll take more than one thing to get it done.
Yeah, I know. It'll take more than one turn to like this.
But you do make a persuasion check.
Yeah.
And I'll give you advantage because you're kind of talking to both of them directly.
All right.
As you've kind of like basically put down artifice, I think with that actual 14 was fate. All right. You said the piece, they're still raring to go. You're not sure how much effect it had or did not have. But yeah, they're all still, like I said, ready to go at each other's throats. I'll say you still have an action if you want to do something else. Or is that just, you're just going to dedicate your turn to that?
Let me see. Tongues takes an action to cast, so...
Oh, okay, yes. So you used your action to cast tongues, and then you say
Yeah.
the thing that you say. Excellent. In that case, you're now tonguesed up and ready to talk to everyone. As we move next in initiative to... Now it is Nijel. Nijel, what do you want to do?
I will rise from prone, and since he took the bonus action to, disengage, and he didn't dash, I should still be within,
You
15
are correct,
feet of
sir.
him.
You can get up to him.
Excellent. I shall do so, draw my blade, and kind of raise it high, and call out, let's see, Infernal, that should be. Behold, rally! The agents of Loth seek to take out both the heads of the devils and the celestials. Because spiders.
You kind of call this out as you're basically standing on the balcony. You kind I think you like rip open the curtain, and now you're visible up on the higher platform, and you kind of reveal the assassin. And what do you do?
And as I stand there, having made my proclamation, I will get nice and edgy for the edgy boy. Can the assassin give me a charisma saving throw?
Oh, all right. Let's see if I can find my assassin sheet. There it is. They're gonna make a charisma saving throw. They are also not particularly good at this.
He is
12.
frightened. His
Ooh.
move speed is reduced to 0.
Oh no, they just stand there horrified in place as Nijel, you open up your terrifying skeletal wings. And is that your action to do so?
It is indeed my action to do so. My bonus action will be to...
Bonus action is going to be to what?
Shield.
You're very quiet. I'm having trouble hearing you there.
Shield?
Shield of Faith.
Oh, Shield of Faith. Very good. You cast up your Shield of Faith spell. No more assassinations are going to hit you with a 19. That's for sure. As you pump up your shield, and the creature is there, terrified and in just a terrible, terrible fear. Struck in place. As we move back around to the top of the initiative, which is where the armies of good and evil begin to unleash the opening blows. As things are standing, you see that the angels and the devils, like the unicorn, kind of begins charging across. You watch as the Butcher and Sephirius Lightbringer both kind of run and jump kind of onto the table and go up and clash. Sephirius' sword clashes into the sword, the kind of big, terrible mace that the Butcher is kind of wielding. As, you know, kind of sparks rally, the other devils kind of go into it. Ideal, kind of glaring down at you right now, you can see that there's a terrible devil that begins to walk forward. That one that was just all made of bone kind of lurches towards you. And kind of speaks in the infernal tongue at you, betrayer, as they believe they're the Butcher's word, which was that it was your deception that was kind of leading to this situation, and they're going to attack at you. Oh, but in public, and not with advantage. Is they're going to try to slash at you? Oh, that's a 22. That's a critical failure, I assume this is. And that's a 14. Does a 14 get you?
Let's see. On a 14, I will use Force of Personality to intercept it with.
Oh, hells yeah! Awesome! Does that cost a charge, if I remember?
Yes.
Alright, yes. So you
I believe
expend
it
one.
adds 5 to my armor class, making it.
Radical. Alright, so you toss up your cane in front of it, interposing it in between. As the stinger comes down, it kind of connects and gets stuck into it. You batter it away using your Force of Personality from your fancy new item. And then the claw gets you for 11, but that's it, right?
Yep.
Alright. And that's all for that creature's turn as the kind of fighting escalates in the room. Currently things are pushing in a bad direction, but it's certainly not too late. As we move now to the top of the initiative before, which is you, Michael Verity. What do you wish to do?
So how far am I away from the assassin?
You can walk right up. No issues there. You can walk right up. And they also can't move, which is not great for them.
Oh, they can't move? Can I force them to move?
Yeah, you can push them. They just have a movement speed of 0.
No, I'm going to run over and I'm going to tackle them off the balcony and I'm going to make them crash onto the table. I'm going to
go ahead and
crash onto the table on top of them.
Go ahead and make an athletics check. They do get a chance to resist with their acrobatics, but you're basically to try and make a shove. Oh my god, there's no way.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure that they're gonna take some fall damage too.
They have a good acrobatics, but I don't think they're gonna get. Yeah, they critically fail. All right, so you run over.
Well, that's a very good assassin.
That's I think I +6. They run over and you just crash them off the balcony as you fall into the turmoil below because they did so egregiously bad. They're going to take a nice chunk of falling damage. which is going to be 15 points of falling damage. My Verity, you also take 15 points of falling damage.
Totally fine with it. It was worth
Yeah,
it.
I suspected. That's one. You still have an attack. That's just one shove action, which you can do in place of an attack. So as you crash down to the ground, they're definitely prone. You can stand up and also hit them again if you want.
Oh, they're still alive.
Yeah, barely. They're not doing good, that's for sure.
Finish it off.
All right, go ahead and make it 30. Jesus, you're on fire tonight, Michael. For 11, you want to describe your killing blow on this assassin in its entirety? That's righteous as hell.
No, I literally no. So what happens is, right after I crashed onto the table on top of the assassin, I literally hold them up with my hand, hand almost to their throat, and I literally decapitate them.
Oh, Jesus. Yeah, you crash down and then just the head kind of rolls across the floor with one kind of nice clean swipe. And you now will have all advantage on all checks to essentially calm down and de-escalate the current battle that's happening as a result of one, that righteous kill, and two, that you've taken out the assassin as a group. Nice work. As we move on now to sword, what do you want to do? The assassin is dead, but the battle rages on below, the whole reason you're here. What do you want to do?
Well, I can't. I don't have a tongue spell or anything to.
You have their translate. You can speak to at least one group.
All right. You know what? I think I'll use thaumaturgy to echo my voice out and get everybody's attention.
For sure. What do you kind of say?
There's your assassin. Stop this incessant fighting now. It's obvious somebody doesn't want this to happen. Do you want to give them that benefit?
Go ahead and make me a persuasion check. It seems appropriate, and obviously you have advantage because of the situation, as I described previously. 10. Your voice kind of booms over, but in the chaos, it's not quite piercing through. Anything else that you would like to do? Still have a bonus action if you would wish to make one.
How high up was the
40 feet.
You know what? I'm just gonna cast Healing Word on that demon that took the arrow earlier, and maybe that'll do something.
All right, yeah, I like that. Go ahead and roll healing, and we'll judge your success basically on how good your healing is.
For 10 points.
Healed for 10 points. All right, yeah. Where that chain devil kind of took the arrow before, you see the wound heals over, and that chain devil looks up at you, and it kind of like whips its chains around in a little circle as if to say, "Hey, thanks, man." You're not sure if like that chain devil has a lot of influence, but it does seem to kind of like hear your cause a little bit more now that you're helping him. And that's going to bring us next initiative to Ideal. What do you want to do?
I guess I'm going to use Intimidation.
You're going to try and stare down this bone devil?
Yeah, like, I'm going to say, calm down now. If you fight now, all you're going to end up doing is letting whoever hired this assassin win.
Alright, go ahead and make me an intimidation check.
Alright.
And you have advantage. Yep, you're all at advantage of these days. 17. All right, yeah. The bone devil kind of like leans back a little bit and kind of falls onto its heels. And it's no longer seems to be focusing on you. Its wings are kind of fluttering as it's getting ready to fly up and kind of clash across the hall elsewhere. But it's like, as it goes to, it kind of stops and holds and is like now looking, just like that chain devil was, it's now looking towards the Butcher of Gulthas to see if she is going to react in a different way. She's still in kind of direct combat with, currently with Sephirius Lightbringer, and she leans across the way and just calls out, I'll do to you exactly what I did to your grandfather. He wasted away in our dungeons for aeons. And that's not great. It's not a great line. But some of her like subordinates are starting to say like, wait, hold on a second. Let's pump the brakes. As it moves now to you, Nijel. The assassin is doomed before you. What do you wish to do?
How far away is this clash happening?
It's 40 feet below you. Some of it's happening at your height, as there's lots of things that can fly on both sides.
Damn it, if I just had 10 more HP.
You want to go for it? It's possible. Are you feeling risky?
I would have to have an average of 3 on each die, and I don't think I'm that lucky tonight.
Alright, what are you going to do then?
I will spend this round lay on hensing myself for 4 days.
Oh, Jesus, alright. You just kind of... a strong pound to the chest, and all of a sudden all of your wounds just... are just completely gone and healed. Is that 100% of your health, or are you still down a little bit?
I'm at about 93%.
Okay. Yeah, you're in much, much, much better shape. And that's going to...
I
Top of
will
the initiative.
bonus action shift from, whatchamacallit. Ah, man, that keeps fucking with my sheet. I will bonus action shift from the Shield of Faith to Thunder.
Thunder what?
Thunderstep?
Oh shit, I didn't prepare Thunderous Smite, never mind.
Hmm.
I keep Shield of Faith because I did not prepare spells, right?
Okay, in that case, you got your Shield of Faith ready, and that's going to bring us to the top initiative, the Devil, the War. Ideal, from across the room, a mote of flame flies at you. It doesn't even seem to be headed towards you. It's just like part of the ongoing fray. Is a 9 going to hit you? I assume not. It's not even close.
No.
Michael, Verity, from where you're on the ground, that unicorn is running across the room. It crashes into you. It's going to try and make an attack against you with its hooves. Not seeming again to be going after you, but you're just kind of in its path. 19.
Ow! 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 Hooves! Ow!
You
that
get
hit.
trampled by unicorn hooves as this unicorn goes over and goes to like stab at one of the devils with its horn as it's engaged also in the fray. The two at the center are clashing. The kind of Deva kind of calls out. You see that Deva is like now essentially using like a magic now and kind of casting a spell to seemingly alter its voice. It's speaking now in the language. It's actually speaking in Infernal now to the Butcher as the Deva kind of calls out. I will avenge my grandfather's death 1,000-fold. As it's kind of attacking forth and trying to put an end to the Butcher of Gulnath. But meanwhile, while this is happening, seeing kind of the escalation on both sides, some of like the members of each side are trying to pull them away and like somehow restore calm into the space. As we move next in initiative to Michael, what do you want to do?
So I crashed onto the table in the middle of the freaking conflict.
Yeah, you destroyed the negotiation table, a powerful metaphor for what's going on right here.
So I'm going to now restore peace. I'm going to hold my sword up in the air and release a wave as I use mass suggestion among
Oh
them.
shit! That's the exact perfect spell for the situation.
So I'm going to, yes, I use 6 charges of my sword to cast mass suggestion, 2 on each, I have 12 targets, 2 of them on the leaders, 5 for creatures on each side.
Okay, I'm just gonna roll. The leaders are both immune to the charm condition, but all of their subordinates are not. So we're gonna roll for that. Oh, Jesus, none of them rolled very well. I have to do a bunch of modifiers, and that's on both sides. I'm just rolling basically for each group.
Yeah, and basically
roughly
what
the
I
same.
said, and basically what I said is the assassin is dead. Drop your weapons and cease fighting.
It's 12. It's 12 creatures, right?
Yep,
You can
12.
target- All right. A couple on the angelic side fare a little bit better, but most of the ones on the devilish side all kind of like you see as like all 5 of the devils that you target just kind of like take their weapons and lower them to the ground. You watch as a couple of the angels are still engaged in the fray, hurling into battle, but mostly at this point, the battle that rages is just between two figures, save for a couple of other smaller skirmishes. The two leaders still clashing, an old rivalry being brought to bright flames once more in the center of the conference, in the center of the banquet hall. We move now in initiative to... yeah, that's a big spell in this particular instance. We move now in initiative to Sword. What do you want to do, Sword?
I just want to check something really quick. Okay. I will cast on both the leaders. Does that count as a charm spell?
The charm, they're immune to the charmed conditions, so if it's a charming effect, then yeah, they would be.
Well, it's not a charming effect. It was just a simple command spell. I didn't know if that
command, I believe you can actually command people that can't be charmed, so you can use command.
Yeah, but I think but you have to spend you'd have to do it higher than first level if you want to target both of them.
Yeah, so do you want to do that?
Yeah.
What do you command?
Make them drop their...
And they make wisdom saving throws?
Correct.
Oh, weirdly, this creature's wisdom saving throw is not that good. Oh my god. Wow. They extremely are commanded in this moment.
Wait, what about the...
Yeah, they're working on it.
Oh my god, that both crit fail!
That one's really good at those. They both crit fail. And you watch as both of them are about to like cut in and like hit each other in the neck, and both of their swords just stop an inch from hitting each other. And both of them just let go of their weapons and take a step back, kind of bound by your magic in this space. Absolutely righteous sword. So much cool shit. All right, and that passes our turn to Ideal. Ideal, what do you want to do? They're both standing there looking at each other, seething. They both drop their weapons, and everyone, the entire hall before you is completely still, as everyone just kind of is looking on.
Now, let's remain calm. I'm sure... I mean, after all, we still don't know who hired the assassin. I'm assuming one of you may have some sort of way of summoning his soul and interrogating him into speaking who hired him.
Make me a persuasion check with advantage, and I'm going to lower the DC because that's an extremely good point.
Okay.
27. Oh, Jesus. All right, yeah. They both look at you, and stunned into this moment, all of them magicked into submission by some impressive spells, and then you just hit them with this hard logic in this moment, and they both kind of put down... their weapons. They both kind of look at each other and put down their postures, is what I mean. And the Dave responds, "Yes, I believe that is something that you do, isn't it?" Who's now speaking kind of infernal from the language that he cast before. And she responds, "Yes, actually it is. I would love to hear what this one has to say." And they both look over to the body, and they look at you, Ideal. "Hand me that piece of paper. Let's get it over and done with. I want to speak to this one.
All right.
We'll have quite a few words."
All right, I hand them the paper.
All right, you hand over the paper. You hand them each the pen, and in turn, you watch as both of them kind of like dip the pen into their skin. The Deva signs in a brilliant golden, kind of golden blood. The devil kind of signing in a very viscous and deep crimson one, and the pact is signed. You watch as the treaty kind of seems to like glow with some ethereal energy for a moment before just kind of settling down, whatever magic that they have chosen upon to bind it, keeping it now documented as then they both turn and look towards, unified by a common hatred of this assassin. They both step away from you and turn to look towards, the creature that's there on the floor that's probably in for a bad time. But as this is happening, you hear that static kind of come in on the radio again, and that voice kind of speaks up over it and says,
Well, good work, everybody. It seems that you've just ended a millennia-old war. Come on, celebrate a little bit. Show some enthusiasm.
And as that, all of the kind of like devils and angels in the space begin to kind of like let out cheers of their own. The bloodshed is finally done, and some very kind of pleasant music begins to play over the speakers. Again, perhaps the results of your patron here, as resounding choruses of hurrahs rouse in the chamber as these two once bitter rivals step off to interrogate this assassin together. And with that, the situation is de-escalated, and you have successfully brokered a peace treaty between heaven and hell, in the more abstract terms. So with that, eventually all of you work your way back, and you have all completed this particular adventure. As you, Ideal, kind of return to your apartment, and it's been a long day, but the purposes are sometimes unclear for what the radio demon has in mind. You see an absolute flood of new commissions and contracts going in for your particular operation. A lot of work apparently needs to be done in governing and making sure that this treaty is properly upheld, and who better to do it? And with a lot of new business now headed your way, Ideal, you have all succeeded in this particular adventure. Congratulations! You've each earned 300 Bartholomew bucks and gained 2 points of experience.
Woohoo!
Good work.